Okay, hi Michelle.
Hi, Marnie.
So we're just going to talk about lesson number 5. I'll just tell you some things that I've jotted down about the lesson, about things that I felt went well or things I would change next time. So usually I look for a video or something to kind of connect the students to the lesson. So I searched for a video on feedback and watched all these videos, and nothing really stood out to me and connected. And so then I thought, oh, why don't I just share my own experiences, because I have had a lot of experience with feedback. And that worked really well. I felt that really connected with the students, and then they could open up as well and then share their own experiences. And it was nice kind of having everybody share their past experiences. It kind of, everybody got to know each other a little bit better on a deeper level and had that community. So I think it's good for the teacher to have these moments of sharing past experiences and students sharing more of their own stories.
I agree. I thought that worked really well. And the quote at the beginning was really good as well, just to lead into the lesson.
Yeah, and they were so, well, 90% of them was so positive about feedback and, so willing to accept feedback from others and their peers. And they had lots of positive things to say. A couple of people were like, oh, I ignore the feedback, which was interesting. But a lot of people were so, they'd had these experiences before and they were so willing to take it on. So yeah, I think in my lessons, I will try to create more of these moments where we can share stories, for the students to share stories too. And I get to know them so much better when they do that as well, because, I can go and listen to these little stories as well. Another thing, when they were talking in the breakout rooms, I made a very conscious decision to shut up and not say a word. So I just went from room to room and I didn't say anything. But I really had to make a decision to do that, because it's really hard for me not to.
How do you think that impacted the students?
I think when I comment, even if I say, oh, that's good or whatever, it's interruption.
But this time when you didn't speak, how did that impact that group discussion?
I think there was more flow to it, and they just kept communicating. And then other students would step in and ask a question, and yeah, because
so it was more natural.
Yeah, I always feel I have to step in and do something. As a teacher, I feel like, I have to do something, I have to say something, and I don't. I guess sometimes I do, but I really need to decide when to do it. And for that activity, I definitely didn't need to say anything.
And give them time to be silent and think and come up with ideas.
Here's the thing, I get so nervous with the silence. I get so agitated, and I just need to, and a couple of times there was silence and I just waited, and then somebody asked a question and it kept going. It was really, I think for them, it's very natural and they can just communicate. So I definitely need to keep remembering that and keep doing that, because otherwise I do jump in quite a bit. What else? Oh, so when they finished, so each team finished the presentation, and then I said a few words, a few positive comments about the presentation. Then right at the end, after all the teams had finished, it wasn't part of my lesson plan, but I decided to write up everything on the PowerPoint so that they could see it, which I thought really helps them to, take it in. With me just talking and saying, oh, good job, whatever, it's not really real for them. Whereas I thought if I wrote it all down and they can see it and they're reading it and hearing it, it's kind of...
And they can take it away.
Yeah. So I just did that, and I thought that worked really well. So I think sometimes with giving positive comments, I think it's really good to write it down so that they can really see it. I think it's more meaningful for them.
Yes.
The self-reflections were amazing.
Oh.
They wrote, you know, and it was eye-opening for me to read them, because they really spent some time and really thought about it, and quite a few students used it as a way of giving themselves a pat on the back of a job well done, and said, oh, I worked really hard and I'm really happy. And I think for the teacher to read that, you get such a insight into how the students are really feeling, which you would never find out any other way. So that self-reflection,
no, you wouldn't.
Really, really good. And so I definitely want to keep using that, especially when you finish a big assessment or assignment or whatever after that process. It's really good for them to think about the next steps, or how they did, or how they feel they did. And then the action plans as well. So the students got the feedback from their peers, and then they got feedback from the teacher, and then they had to put together the action plan. And I really think it helps them to think about their future decisions and how they can improve. And instead of just saying practice more, they had to really think about an
What
activity.
did they say in their action plans? What are some examples?
So they had to give a weakness. They had to say one of the weaknesses they thought, for example, pronunciation, and then they had to write it, you know, something quite specific on how to improve it. And that's another thing. So next lessons, I want to talk a little bit more about what you can actually do for certain aspects. That is a future lesson that I do want to do with them. And yeah, just doing this PBL and coming to the end of the process, I can just see how
great it is,
fantastic it is, because everything is integrated, everything is connected, and it is meaningful. Whereas, you know, when we do lessons, we're just doing these lessons. Whereas when you're working towards this end goal, it's motivating for the students. They can see a reason for doing things. Whereas when we're teaching, let's do this grammar, let's do this, there's nothing. And
it doesn't link to anything.
It doesn't.
Particularly.
No. And you know, and with the PBL, you can do so much, you know, and it can go on for so long. And yeah, you're building towards something. And also the students have so much autonomy, and sort of, especially for these age groups, these higher level classes we're doing. I think it's really good.
And also they have the opportunity to use lots of different skills at the same time. Whereas doing, you know, separate activities from a course book, you know, it's not really optimizing their
absolutely
skills in particular.
And doing this together in a group too, there's a huge benefit in that, you know. And it's teaching them life skills and 21st century skills, which they have to use for the rest of their life, which I thought was great. Okay, so so now I was thinking, one thing I thought I would change next time is actually have a prize for the winning team, but then I feel a little bit uncomfortable about it. Even announcing the winning team, I felt a little bit, should I do this?
And it was based purely on donations, wasn't it?
So
I think that gave you a good sort of objective reason for that, you know, for giving for them, you know, winning.
One of the aims was they had to convince their audience to get the donation, and the team that won definitely did that to the best.
Oh, really?
The best.
Okay.
But then I kind of feel a little bit,
Do you think that each group should win a prize for a specific aspect that they did well?
That could be something that I could focus on next time. Maybe different aspects, because I do feel a bit guilty.
Yeah, because they've all worked so hard, and then it's probably a little bit of a letdown.
It is a bit, but I did it very quickly. I didn't make too much of a big deal out of that, and then I spent more time giving everybody positive feedback for all their hard work. But yeah, I was thinking next time a prize. I think it's a good idea what you said. It could be different aspects.
But being online,
no, but that's yeah, exactly. So face to face, super easy. The only thing you can do is give them an e-voucher.
Yes,
an e-voucher or something like that.
But then are we allowed to do that?
Well, we can give a prize in the class. What's the difference?
Are we allowed to? I'm not sure about
teachers.
that.
Teachers do it all the time. I mean, I think if the students play a game, you can give. I mean, you can't give them something huge.
Expensive. Yeah.
You can give them something little, like a box of chocolates. I've never heard of this.
Oh, I think there are issues with it.
Okay.
Anyway,
so you think a prize is not a good idea?
No, I think prizes are a good idea depending what they are.
Okay. No, it would be something super simple and small, nothing too like some chocolates. That the team can share. Also, it has to be something the team can share. Another thing, but I didn't have a lot of time, but if I had more time, I would have liked, because I put them in a pair to give each other feedback, I would have liked them to speak to each other.
Oh, hang on. Did they not speak to each other?
They didn't speak to each other. They filled out the peer feedback and they wrote some comments, and I didn't have time for them to speak and give verbal feedback. Just so I wish I had a little bit more time, or at least maybe I could have fitted it in where they had a little bit of time after all the presentations, after I had spoken, to just speak to each other for just a few minutes. Maybe I could have squeezed that in.
Yeah, that sounds a bit more personal.
Yeah. So that was another thing I thought I could do. What else? I think that is all my notes. Yeah, it was hard to think of who should give feedback to who. That took me some time to really think about.
Yeah, how did you do that?
I was trying to think of people with similar skill levels. I didn't want, a student with low skills trying to give feedback to a student.
Yeah.
I was trying to match up the students' skill levels when I
And do you think that worked out?
Yeah, I think it did, because I was reading the comments and suggestions, and yeah, they all had some good ideas for their partners.
Okay.
I think student partner to listen. Oh, when they did the feedback, when they did the peer feedback, I changed the rubric. So I had the rubric that I was going to give feedback, which included the group criteria.
Yes.
When I did the student feedback, I changed it and I just gave the individual. What do you think?
For one student.
Yeah. What do you think?
No, I was actually going to say something about that. Yeah, hang on. Are you saying that's a good thing or something you'll change?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
At the time, I thought it was a good idea, but now I'm not sure if. Yeah.
I thought it was good. So I think sometimes it's good to limit what students have to do. If they had to give everyone, if they had to give feedback on all the criteria.
Sure.
I mean, that is such a it's hard for us.
Yeah, it is.
I think it was really good that hang on.
I changed it.
How
Yeah,
did you limit it?
I took out the group one. Yeah. And I just had
so they just focused on one student.
Yeah.
I thought that was way better because it gives them much more of a focus.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to assess a whole group and
it's too
everything
much
going on. So I thought that was a good move.
Yeah, good. I was going to say one more thing and now it's left my mind. Oh, the questions went really well, right? So I had one group and they had to ask questions. So, because usually the presentation is finished and you go, okay, question time, and nobody says anything. But because I allocated those groups, they were all ready to ask questions and they had written down some questions. So that worked out really well.
And also you gave them so much, scaffolding at the beginning as to how to ask questions that, that clarified it, I think.
Yeah. Yes, so definitely now with presentations, I'm always going to be spending a bit more time on that question time and making sure there's a process so that they really focus on asking questions.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So I think, one of the main things is just this growth mindset, and doing this lesson on feedback really helps students to focus on that growth mindset and understand how important feedback is, and how for the rest of their lives this is going to be a very important feature. And it's me too. It's funny doing this lesson. I'm like, oh my God, I totally need to take this on board and be more positive about this, because I find it so difficult. Yeah. So it helps me too.
I think it depends how the feedback is given.
You're right. They were so positive. I was thinking, God, I need to be more positive about this. But you're right, God, it's definitely how it's given. And yeah,
and you covered that in the lesson, be gentle, be polite, say something positive before you say something negative. Yeah. So all of that, I think, was really beneficial and helpful, because some students might not know how to give feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, usually they just say very good.
Exactly. So general.
Or good. And so, I thought all that build up to giving feedback and was really, really great.
And
do you want me to say something?
Yeah, go for it. Oh, I just I just think some couple of students who were a little bit negative had been given, some really negative comments before, and so that jades them, and then they don't want to kind of accept any feedback.
And I think some people think feedback has to be negative. So maybe they had that thinking.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, go.
Okay, so I divided it up into kind of 5 sections. The first phase I called the introductory phase, and I thought the quote was really good. And they could draw on their own, the students could draw on their own personal experiences. You gave them clear objectives for the lesson, feedback and audience. The AHA slides were great for collecting data. It's really good to see visual data. I thought that was wonderful. I like the brainstorm. Feedback is ... And the words that the students came up with were fantastic. So, and it was visual. I think when things are visual, it just really helps to elicit ideas and interest as well. And as we talked about earlier, you being the participant, talking about, how you used to cry, and You know, that was all relatable because, you know, we've all had that kind of situation where we've had someone criticize us, you know, very negatively, and it's really hard to take. So that kind of set the scene. I thought that was all really good. Then you moved into the kind of feedback section where the students talked about the importance of feedback, and, you know, and it gave them the idea that it is a life skill, that it's something you have to deal with and be able to do throughout your life. You set up the process for giving feedback, which included everyone, you know, for students who might not know how to put together, you know, feedback sentences. You showed them really good models for that. And as we talked about before, setting up the feedback partners was great because, you know, otherwise it just would have been too overwhelming, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough for us when we have to give feedback to a group, let alone a student. Then it moved into the phase about the audience and the importance of the audience. And again, it was really good scaffolding for what, you know, how they had to participate as an audience, and particularly post presentations where they had to come up with questions. And you use something called MindMeister, which is another really good visual tool, which, you know, it's really engaging and interesting. And then you moved into that section on question types and how to ask questions. And again, that, you know, it was very inclusive. All students could see what they had to do, hear the questions. And then you set up the groups and teams so everyone knew which group they had to really focus on to ask questions. Which again, it was another kind of limiting thing which benefited everyone. So all of that was great as a big build up to the presentation phase of the lesson. Then you set up the donation task, which I think added like a motivation and a fun aspect for students. And again, I think it motivated them to pay attention because they were going to have to make choices with their money. Presentations.
I wish I could have shown more of the presentations, but I really had to.
It's okay. It's not enough time on YouTube.
Yeah.
So then you gave them general positive comments, and again, that was a good model for the students giving peer feedback. You know, they were positive comments. They were meaningful. And then you showed the donation spreadsheet, which was really interesting. And you gave throughout the lesson, you gave a lot of positive reinforcement for good answers, good words, good questions, etc. And then the last part was feedback, which I read about in the lesson plan. And I thought there was a really good variety of feedback types, you know, so peer, self, and then taking action, and teacher feedback, and then taking action. So it didn't end in that lesson. It's something that's going to keep going in their lives, that they can, you know, they can keep doing a self-reflection and an action plan by themselves. And then I like the way all of that feedback and reflection was part of the summative assessment. So, you know, they couldn't just skip it. They had to actually take action with it and produce something for their final assessment. And then spread into standard 9 and 10 for you in your projects and your plan for professional learning. So I thought it was all really well integrated, and you know, the PBL kind of benefited you as well. It was a PBL for you.
Yes, exactly. It is.
And the standard 9 plan, that was really good. You had 4 objectives that benefited you, your workplace, other teachers and their students. So it's kind of like, you know, a branching out thing. It's not just you doing your own thing. It's, you know, how can this benefit everyone? And then the leadership project was similar. And in that one, you also included parents. So how can they benefit from SEL and promote that in their families,
yeah,
with their kids? So I thought the whole thing was really well put together. Really, everything was integrated really well. Obviously, you were inspired by, you know, what you were actually doing in the classroom, and then that led on to other things.
Yeah, no, so that's a very good point. The PBL is motivating for the teacher.
Yes,
you are creating something that is interesting for you and the students, and you're not just using a book where there is information which you don't relate to, the students don't relate to, nobody relates to. Whereas
so how do you sell it? You know,
yeah, with the PBL, you're choosing something that we're both interested in, and then you're creating something, and so everybody gets involved. And yeah, I wish, I think with our new courses, we're going to be moving in this direction.
Well,
we hope.
We should.
Okay, Michelle.
Stefanie, well done overall.
Thank you. Thanks.
I can see that was
great, you know, feedback.
A lot of effort, a lot of, you know, a lot of deep thought about how to bring it all together. That's, you know, no easy feat.
No, really good feedback, Michelle. Thank you.
All right. Best of luck.
Thanks. Thanks for all your support and all your feedback. It's been great. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna stop the video now.